morning. Thank you very much. It's good to be here and share with you. Come on down, Lisa. Yeah, she's just signing in her grandkids to the kids ministry. We're missing a member today. Tammy's had to go down help her daughter in Brisbane, so we're missing her today, but you'll see her on screen later. We're just here to kind of share some of the stories. It's difficult to capture 2 weeks of mission in a couple of minutes, so but I'm going to invite each of the members to share a little bit, and then I'll ask them some impromptu questions, and they'll give an excellent response to help you sort of share a little bit. But I want to start first just thanking you. Thank you so much for your support, both your prayer support. We had over 50 people sign up to our prayer chain, and each of us also had 10 other members praying for every one of us. So over 100 people were praying, and I'm sure those who didn't sign up were praying for us as well. It made a huge difference while we're over there. There was a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but it certainly made a huge difference. We didn't have any real issues over there. The team really got along. It was super incredible. And also thank you as well for your financial support. We raised almost, you gave pretty much almost $20,000 to this support, so thank you very much. And so we're able to give $2,000 of that to the bakery. We're able to give $2,000 of that just as a gift to Mel and Tim directly, plus a few other gifts throughout the midst of that. Plus we took 2 suitcases full of stuff over there, from coffee cups to toys for the nursery school, to a whole range of different sort of things. So went above and beyond that as well. And we gave an extra $2,000 as well to start the cafe, the second cafe there as well. So we've got a video later that I'll show you on that. So, but starting with some stories, what's one of the stories? Carolyn, you've got the microphone, so we'll start with you. Share a story of what happened during the time.
Hello? Is it? Okay. Yes, once again, I just want to back up with what Dan said about prayer. We could just feel that carry us over there, and just things just flowed. I'm just going to say a couple of things about my time over there. My story is a bit different to everyone else because I'd been over there twice before, both times for 6 months, 9 and 11 years ago. So they sort of had all the first impressions, where I, didn't have that this time. But the things that I really noticed was the growth in the kids ministries. Like, they have what they call Kids Club, which is like our Sunday school. So they have Bible stories, they learn memory verses, they have games and some food. When I was there last, so this is 9 years ago, in Mangotchi they had, actually it was in Tim and Mel's compound, they used to have a kids club once a week. Now that was about 300 kids, so that was really impressive to see. But when I've gone back this time, that club has multiplied into 3 clubs, and each of them have got about 300 kids. You think that's great, but then you go up to the lake house where Bubba Frank is, and he, back when I was over there last time, he was just beginning his walk with Christ. Oh my goodness, he is just the most powerful preacher now. And he says, powerful. It's really, sorry, we just kept repeating that. But from him, so he has an adult group meet once a week, like a church service, but then he's got 5 of these groups, one meeting there and another 5 in the villages around. I mean, that is amazing. And they're up to 200 kids each. Not always all on the same day, but, that's how many, and some of them more. That is just, and what's even more amazing about that is, like, as I said, they get taught Jesus, about Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Well, they come from Muslim villages. So for those kids to be allowed to come along, they have to get permission from their parents, obviously, but also all these villages have a chief, and he allows them to come. So that is just, that's God, that these kids are allowed to come and get bombarded with Jesus, and, the effect of that in future years, I just can't wait to see. So that's been the really big impact on me. The other was the leaders. When I was over there last time, Tim and Mel, I suppose, had been there about 5 years the first time, and they had sort of got these leaders, and Tim would go out to the different villages, but now those leaders are now leading over other leaders, and Tim and Mel sort of more supervise just them now rather than go to the villages. And just seeing the growth in those guys, just the growth in Christ, their authority, their dedication, and just abilities. It's great, just mind-boggling. I'd love to see that multiplication here. You know, that's what's really good. Can I keep talking?
So we might throw back to you. Yeah,
Okay,
I'll throw to Ewan.
But anyway, just one quick thing is, I loved it
She's
over
going to
there.
keep talking.
No, I just
Go
take
for
it.
it.
One quick thing. I've been over there 3 times, but you know, if God wants me to go back, I'm back.
Yeah. Thanks, Carolyn. Ewan, do you want to share a story or an experience you had?
Hello. Is it on?
No.
Okay. Carolyn mentioned Bubba Frank, and he made a big impression on me. He's a upfront sort of bloke, and I think it was the second day we went to a school, and he'd say, Mama Carolyn, you will do the Bible reading, and Mama Jay, you will pray. Bubba Ewan, you do a testimony. And you know, without any warning, he would just organise us, and so we just had to run with it. And I found, like he would say afterwards, that was short, but powerful. And he was a guy that I got on well with. We went on a bus, we got on the bus regularly, and one day I said to him, Bubba Frank, where are we going? And he gave me the name of the village. And he said, Bubba Ewan, they've never seen Azungas at this village. And I'd say, are you messing with me? Azunga is a white person and we're Azungas. And he'd just laugh at me. Another time we were in a village, and a fellow came up to me. I was like a babe in the woods, and he grabbed my hand. He was a fisherman, and he had a bottle of gin in his hand, and he was well and truly intoxicated, and he started talking to me, and I did not understand a word he was saying. And so Bubba Frank came up to me, and he grabbed the thumb of this bloke, he grabbed my thumb, he pulled our hands apart. He said, keep going, because this fella was after some money. And we were like in a very poor country. It had a deep impression on me, this appalling roads, the low income that people have to survive on every day, the way that they have to hustle each day to survive. And in my mind, you know, it was not possible to understand it till we got there, to see how much wealth we have in financial terms, that their communities are strong. Even in an Islamic village, people look after each other and they look out for each other. So the Bible, Tim showed us from the Quran how there are many messages, or many mentions of Jesus as a prophet in the Quran. They use that in bridging the gap of understanding. In so much of the work they're doing, they've embedded themselves. They're respected, they're loved, and that's come from many, many years of investing themselves in that community, in that part of the society of Yaos who are looked down upon. So yeah, I'm still processing everything that I learnt. Had a big impression on me.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. That was good. Yeah, Jay, share a story.
Is that on? Yep. So this is my very first mission trip, and I've never been around a people who have lived in such incredible poverty, and it's not something you can quite take in until you've been there. So flying into Africa, I said to, I think it was you, Stephen, might have been next to me, I'm like, oh, looks like we're just flying into the Australian outback. And it was just so dry and so hot. And I went into the experience just ready and open to have all the experiences and to not say no to anything and just to experience everything. So yes, in the first couple of days when we met Bubba Frank, as everyone has said, he's quite a force to be reckoned with, and when Bubba Frank tells you to do something, you just do it. And so he told me I was going to be sharing with one of the kids' clubs. So you're out in the middle of nowhere where it's so dry and it's so dusty, and you've got, I think there might have been 80 maybe kids sitting in front of me, and they have nothing. They're sitting in the dirt. They have absolutely nothing. And they're just looking at this Azungu up the front, and Frank was interpreting for us. And so I just gave my testimony, and it really hit me while I was speaking to these kids. These kids are no different to me. When I was a little girl, I was sitting on a parade or a celebration for, back then it was, what was it? RE, yeah. And I was listening to the person who was talking, and they were speaking about the choice that everyone needs to make. And I just felt such a connection with each of those kids I was talking to, because they're no different from me. They're sitting surrounded by their friends, and they've got the same decision to make that I made at a similar age to them, to give their hearts to Jesus. And to me, that was a pretty powerful and awesome moment to be able to share my testimony with those beautiful little kids in the dirt. So, yeah.
It certainly was a powerful moment, you know. Jay's like, I don't think I could share a Bible verse or share it. She's like, I'll just share my story. But she just so well, intricately put her story into the Bible and just shared it with these kids, and they really responded, and it was really cool. So, Lisa, what's one of the stories that you faced while there?
My turn. Is it working? Yes. So when I went over to Malawi, I had really no idea why I was called to go. Why I was called to go. So for me, I didn't realise why I was going. So when I got over there, one of the things, of course, was Baba Frank. I couldn't believe how passionate he was about spreading the word, and how disciplined he was. Like, he was really disciplined with the kids, but they just seemed to respect him. And it kind of made you realise that there is a lot of discipline missing in our culture and respect. So when they had the service with the kids at his church, the kids were given one lolly by Jay. She handed out the lollies, and I actually had to walk away because I was so upset, because these kids were begging for one lolly, and now I'm getting so upset again because of it. They were begging for one lolly, and I was just so grateful to get that lolly, and it just made me think about my kids and my grandkids back at home, and how ungrateful we are as a society. I'm sorry, I'm a downer, Debbie Downer here. But yeah, it was just like I couldn't fathom that we are so unhappy with what we've got, and these kids are so grateful for anything that they get. And here were their parents the Sunday before, I think it was the Sunday, the church service before, giving money in the plate, and dancing and singing as they'd done it. They were just so happy and grateful. When we went out to a remote area, the teacher wasn't ready because we were 24 hours late, but anyway, or 12 hours late to getting there. So the teacher wasn't there, and they weren't prepared for us because they had no way of knowing that we were coming late. And so while they were trying to get the teacher organised and everything ready with the kids, they opened the tea house for us, and we were given a cup of tea and a bun, which was horrible. And it had sand and dirt in it. But these people took it out of their houses and gave it to us. They had nothing, and so we ate their bun. But just to see and feel the fact that they had nothing but were still so happy and joyful, and could follow God. And also, when I was over there, I also realised the importance of following Jesus for them in a cultural way, because we can change their lives. If these children turn to Jesus, then we can change each one of their lives from the Islamic beliefs. Their culture's still ingrained in them, and their rituals and that. These children need to be saved, and I feel that the work that Mel and Tim do in that society has been inspirational, and I still feel that we as a church really need to back them and get behind them. I'm sorry I sound emotional, but I am, because it was so moving. And if anybody out here is wanting to go over there, I highly recommend going, because it's life-changing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, it's so interesting that, you look at them and you go, there's so much they don't have, but yet there's so much they do have. They really have a strong sense of community. They really know who they are in their community, and they know what they actually do. And so for me, that was probably one of the most impacting things, is that even though they have so little in terms of food and healthcare and all those sort of things that we have in abundance, they actually have so much in community and the way in which they come around and do that. So it's pretty powerful. Yeah. So Stephen, it's one story. Yeah.
One story?
One story.
All right.
It's difficult to get one story and share.
I'll try.
Yeah.
So when I heard about the Malawi trip, I was like to my father, oh, I think I might be going to Malawi. And then he tells me that they took me there as an infant, so I knew they needed someone with experience to go on that trip. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'll go. Yeah. Other than that, for me, I grew up, part of my growing up was actually in Africa, in Southern Africa. So some of these, I guess, observation and interactions I'd already experienced. And then I've been here and I've seen the juxtaposition, as we're saying. Some of what they lack societally and economically we have, but what we really lack in terms of society they have. So I've always been able to compare the two. So going there for me, it was mostly just about trying to be, I guess, a useful tool to the team while I was there. And the biggest experience for me was learning what relying on God every day is. As the team has alluded to, if you're asked to do something, they ask you out of necessity, not just because you might be an honored guest. For example, there's a picture up there of me at a school. One of their teachers just became unavailable, so they're like, you have teaching experience, you're teaching today. Excellent. I've never taught primary school, so I had no idea what's happening. But I have a friend who teaches in primary school, and I was just copying what she does. So trying to be excited for the kids with the resources that they had and try to populate the whole day with thing. But all of that, I think it happened through prayer. Most of the things that we're asked to do was just either rather immediate, and so we didn't have time to prepare, but asking God and relying on Him was probably the best. And then I'll make this my second story, but I'll make it quick. I love this team here. It was amazing with them. When you get to know people, you know about the quirks. And one of the funniest things that happened to me when we were building the bakery, Dan comes up to me and says, do you know concrete is heavy? I was like, dude, what are you talking about? So yeah, we had a lot of interactions like that.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to say the obvious, like the sun's hot. So, yeah, no, it's good. It's a pretty cool experience to head over there and actually be part of it. You know, something you saw is that all that they did over there was kingdom work. You know, something Tim and Mel, but everybody had a place in the kingdom of God. From Bubba KG, who was down at the bakery precinct, and he's just laying bricks and digging trenches, and he found his place in the kingdom of God to serve in ministry work. With the manager of the cafe, and he's he's not preaching out in the villages and sharing about Jesus, but he's serving in the cafe using his ability. And so to see that everybody has that place in the kingdom of God was really something that they were cultivating and moving towards. So it's pretty cool to do that. So has anybody got sort of one final thing that we haven't shared, or something burning desire? Yeah, Carolyn's got something.
No, I just have to say, they were saying how Bubba Frank put us on the spot. Well, we got him from Australia. We finally got in to the lake house about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And the next day, we sort of rested a bit in the morning, and then he had his first adult service. And and then we're all just sitting there, and he turns around and just says, "A testimony, please." And we just sort of, because it just caught us on the back foot. Anyway, I thought I was very brave, so I got up. And then Stephen got up, Dan preached, and he's a bussa, Dan too, not Pastor Dan, a bussa. But then he just turns to us and he says, "And you will now sing." Oh. None of us are singers. And
it's the worst moment of the whole time.
So we're doing "This Little Light of Mine."
We had no singing ability amongst the team. That was something we lacked. But it was pretty good. It's pretty cool to see there and to see how they operate and work. Bubba Frank certainly was encouraging the way he led that sort of lighthouse and the ministry there. Even in the midst of his pain, Bubba Frank, fertility and having children is very important in Malawian culture. And to the point where, sort of you wouldn't marry someone unless they can actually have children. And Bubba Frank and his wife can't have children. And he's stayed committed to her through the midst of that. And so that was even super encouraging to see that in the midst of that culture where that they would be telling him, go find another wife. Like, that's just what you do. But he continued to actually serve and was an incredible difference, and you saw the growth in that. So it was super encouraging. So we got a video of the bakery there. We're going to get off stage, I think, and sort of so that you can see that of some of the work that we actually did. Yeah.
Welcome, Rockhampton Baptist, to the CC Riverside Precinct. We've been working on this the last few days. This is where the original cafe was built, and it flooded 2 years ago. And so we've been working to revitalise this space and also work on the new bakery. And so you've invested in this project. We've been putting our time and effort into this space over the last few days, and I'm going to show you what you've been investing in. So come and follow me. So Rockhampton Baptist, as we've been working on the last few days, that most of this area, when it flooded, it actually went underwater. And so a lot of things went rusty and it needed a recoat of paint. And so over the last little while, we've been working on repainting this railing. So let me show you. Let's come along this way. Guys, here's Ewan. He's been working on this railing really hard. You see, we've got a nice grey coat on the top to keep it nice and cool so that those coming down to the cafe will have a nice space. Let me come this way and show you what else we've been doing. Here's Stephen down here. We're down in the cafe area now, and he's been working to fill out the gaps. When this flooded, the gaps got really wide, and so you could drop a whole bunch of stuff down here. But he's been working hard, putting these timber pieces in to fill up these gaps. We're down now in the community centre, and we've been repainting a bunch of these doors. I'm here with Lisa, and who else have we got inside the doors? It's Jay. They've been working hard to paint a bunch of these doors. These were all sitting in flood water. And so we've got Mama Carolyn over here and Ewan, same thing. We're working to paint all these doors so they're nice and fresh, ready to use this space again. Now, the crown jewel of our project here is the bakery behind me. So you walk along this lovely walkway. There'll be another deck, which Tim will build later. Come up to here, and you get served your bread up here. So let me show you in the bakery. Come on this way. So you head in this way. You'll have shelves over here. The bread will be made back this way. Come back this way. Come back this way. So we've built this lovely room behind here, which Tim has worked on. This is where the big mixer will be. Lovely sheltered under the lovely roof that we've made and we've put together that you've invested in. And so the bread will be mixed out here. It'll be put out on lovely shelves over here. Lovely shelves. It'll all be laid out, ready to go into the oven. So what we've also done, this here is a concrete shelf. And then on top of this concrete shelf will be the bread oven. It's a bit like a pizza oven. You'll get the timber from underneath there. The fire will sit in the back of there. You put the loaves of bread, the dough already made, and it'll be put inside the oven here. And then Ewan will pull out the bread. It'll be lovely, and then it'll be served to our lovely guests coming from the CC Cafe. And so we thank you so much, Rockhampton Baptist, for investing in the project, allowing us to come over here, be part of this. You've invested in this more than you could ever know. And so we've put our lovely stamp on it here, Rocky Baptist 2025. This will be here forever. And thanks to your generosity, it's gone beyond actually investing in this roof lid. You've invested an extra $2,000 because of your generous donations, which will actually also go to fitting out the cafe here on the river. So thank you so much. Now, we've been able to give over $4,000 towards this incredible project because of your generous donations. So from all of us here in Malawi, we want to thank you so much. Thank you, Rocky Baptist.
Hip, hip, hooray!
There we go. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video. Yeah, just thanks very much for being part of that. We worked on that for a few days and just got it to a stage where it was able to be, Tim would just do the final little bits and pieces. In a few months, we'll have a video that Tim will hopefully share of the finished bakery progress and hopefully some fresh loaves that we didn't get to experience over there because their baker's currently training in South Africa. And so I just want to share from Isaiah chapter 28, verse 23 to 29, just briefly this morning. And so one of the most difficult things while we're over there on mission was from our own cultural mindset, we were looking at what we could do. You know, we saw the houses, we saw the opportunities, the farming. One of the most difficult things was to actually not do anything while we're over there, to not act, to not see something from our perspective and go, why don't they do it this way? Or why don't they do it that way? You know, that was one of the most difficult things. It was actually not to act, not to operate out of our own understanding, but to sit humbly and listen to what God's doing, to listen to what Tim and Mel had been working through over that time. There's a struggle in that. You know, we looked at the mission opportunities. You go, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could go there. You know, as we looked at their agriculture, they had all their farming fields all ploughed and ready for the rainy season. The rainy season's not another month or two away. Yeah, but as we sat at the lake house, we looked at this massive lake, and you go, only 200 metres in is dry fields. What if you had a pump that pumped water in and sort of irrigated the fields? They could plant today and not wait for a couple of months. And it was very difficult in that moment. As you looked at the health system over there, you go, oh, if we just sent a few more doctors over there or created more hospitals, wouldn't that change and really shift the culture for the better? But what we sit with is actually, some of those things would do more harm than good. Let me draw you to Isaiah chapter 28. In the midst of judgment that Isaiah is prophesying, he shares a parable from verse 23 here. It says, give ear and hear my voice. Give attention and hear my speech. Does he who plows for sowing plow continually? Does he continually open and harrow his ground? When he has leveled its surface, does he not scatter dill, sow cumin, and put wheat in rows, and barley in its proper place, and emmer as a border? For he rightly instructed, his God teaches him. Dill is not threshed with the threshing sledge, nor is a cartwheel rolled over cumin, but dill is beaten out with a stick, and cumin with a rod. Does not one crush grain for bread? No, he does not thresh it forever. When he drives his cartwheel over it with his horses, he does not crush it. This also comes from the Lord of hosts. He is wonderful in counsel and excellent in wisdom. Yeah. When we look at our own country, we do have so many opportunities. You know, Lisa sort of shared there the amount of opportunities that we have, the healthcare and the agriculture, and then we have so much in our city and community. And so when you move over to a country about Malawi, it's very easy to see the needs. Our community is full of needs as well. Like, we have so many needs, probably even deeper needs than they have over in Malawi. But often it's not visible, the needs. We have healthcare, we have some of our basic sort of needs met. But when you head over to Malawi, you see the needs. You see the lack of food. You see the lack of education. You see the lack of healthcare to actually get any support. And so when you go over there, you go, oh, I could fix this. I could actually fix this. With only a small investment, I could actually make a change. Do you know that in Malawi, one of the 7th poorest countries in the world, that people have been pumping money into that country for many years, and still very little has changed. Very little has actually caused significant change. In fact, it's probably just changed a bunch of the city centres and the wealth of the local Malawians in the city centres, those who work for these non-government organisations. The money has simply just changed their lives. But as you head to a village, it's done very little. And so over there, you look at it and you go, if only with a little bit of money, we could actually make a big difference. What if we just started sponsoring each and every person? Isn't that a good solution? We just started giving money to different people, giving money to Baba Frank, giving money, and we could actually continue to invest in that area, invest in their education, invest in their healthcare, invest in those different areas. That sounds like a really good solution. But in a country like Malawi, that actually wouldn't work. What's happened before and what can happen is actually the small amount of money we have, if we started investing it in individual people, it actually starts to change the social and cultural dynamics of that village group and that community. With a little bit of our money, you could actually be paying someone in that community in the village more than what the chief earns. And if you start to change that social dynamics, the whole structure of the village community changes. Some of the things you go, what if we just invested in pastors? They'd lead it well, and we invest in pastors. If you start paying a pastor more than what the chief earns, what does everybody want to do? Become a pastor. God may not necessarily be calling them to that area, but they're going, that's how I can get money and actually sort of get ahead. And so you've got to be careful when you think, just give money to that. That'd be a great option. But in a country like Malawi, it just wasn't the solution. So by acting and actually what we would think of sort of investing money into that, in fact, can isolate people in their community as well. Giving someone more than what the chief earns or more than what somebody else earns in that community can actually isolate them from their very village community. And it can do more harm than good. We looked at the healthcare over there, and a few of the team were able to go and visit the maternity hospital and the other hospital there. And so you think, if we just invested in healthcare, that would be a great solution. The average age of a Malawian is 38 years. We live double that. And so you think, if I just provided more healthcare opportunities, that would solve the solution. But they already have a significant population growth. If you start allowing people to live longer in that space, now this sounds odd, don't take me bad, Tab, but I was talking with Tim as we were watching a whole bunch of people pull this massive net in, and I'm going, if the healthcare was better in this country, people would live longer, and that would be good. But then there wouldn't be enough houses for people to live in, and so we need to then build more houses. So then we need to invest in that. And then there wouldn't be enough food. There's already a shortage of food, and so we need to actually get more food producing. But then there wouldn't be enough fuel in the country to keep the fuel alive, because there's already only about a third of the amount of fuel needed in Malawi to survive. And so it would make that even less in the food, and continually there would be more and more problems. And so one simple solution of providing more healthcare actually just led to a whole bunch of other issues. And you go, dang it, I just want to just provide and help with the healthcare. If I could just do one little thing. And it changes the whole dynamics. Food was one thing. We saw all their fields ploughed. Malawi has the biggest resources in Lake Malawi for fresh water. It's a freshwater lake. It's huge. It's big enough that it's tidal. So it's actually so much fresh water that it actually causes tide. So when we were at the Riverside Cafe, the water was at different heights at certain stages, because the tide had changed. That normally only happens in oceans, but it's large enough. So there's so much water. And you go, as I said, 100 metres in, and it's just dry, dusty, barren land. You're going, if we could provide more water, if we just invested in like solar pumps and all those sorts of things, that'd be a great solution to provide for the water shortage in that area. But the problem is we're thinking from our own mindset as Australians. We're trying to enforce actually our own understanding on them. And this was a difficulty as we're over there. We're thinking, we just change that. So you could invest and buy a whole bunch of these solar pumps and everything like that. And maybe for the first season, it would provide them more water. But what happens when they break? There's no expertise over there to fix them. But what you also see at a deeper level as well is they link both what happens physically with what happens spiritually. If you gave them a water pump, it's quite likely they wouldn't use it because they've been working for generations in this farming land and they don't want to upset anything. They don't want to upset the spirits. Even though a bunch of areas are becoming Christians, there's still a generational understanding of demonic spirits and what they would do. If I did something different this year, it may upset the spirits. And so for us, with good intentions going, this would actually create a better option, they probably wouldn't uptake it. And if they did uptake it, what happens if they don't get a better yield that year? They probably would no longer use it. And so for us, we're thinking, there's super simple ways which we could fix their culture, fix their agriculture, fix their space. But most of these areas would actually cause more instability in their culture. It would actually cause isolations and change in their social systems that would actually make it worse. Change in their tribal systems that would actually make it not as good as it is now. So what do? There's a bunch of moments where we sat over there, we're going, I feel like we can't do anything. What can we actually do? See, Tim and Mel have been working over there for over 16 years, asking that question day in, day out. What can we actually do? And they've humbled themselves before God and going, what can we actually do to bring about the kingdom of God in this area and transform communities? This passage in Isaiah is an interesting little parable in the midst of God speaking out. And what's interesting in that parable is that it talks about the proper way to sow and to reap and to harvest and to actually mill or thresh or crush the different grains. You see, what Tim and Mel have done, like this parable sort of speaks to, it says, give ear and hear my voice. Hear God's voice. Give attention and listen to God. For one who does the right things is rightly instructed. His God teaches him. We have a God who is wonderful in counsel, who is mighty and wonderful in wisdom. Our God is the most wise being ever on this earth. And so rather than us trying to do something different that we think's out of our own strength, we sat over there with that moment and going, we actually need to humble ourselves and listen to what God is doing in this space. So a lot of the questions are going, why aren't we doing this? Or why aren't Tim and Mel going and helping agriculture stuff? Because that would probably do more harm than good. And so what are they doing to actually bring about the kingdom of God in a greater way? Well, one of the ways is through these business initiatives that they're doing. The bakery that you've invested in was one of the ways is that actually they're raising up and causing change and transformation. And what they're trying to do is, as they've humbled themselves before God and asked the question, how can I be effective in changing the community? It doesn't happen overnight. They've been working there 16 years and they're still struggling. They're only reaching some moments now where they're seeing transformation and change. It's over a period of time that this has to happen. But it started with them humbling themselves and asking, what do we do, God? What do we do in this stage? And so what they've actually happened is at the start when they were ministering there, they often, they had a bunch of money that they had invested into. They would meet with a few of the key leaders like Bubba Windy and Bubba Frank and saying, we've got this amount of money, what can we do? And they would ask them, well, what do you want to do? As in, what does Tim and Mel want to do with the money? And Tim and Mel would have a great idea and they'd go, and all the local Malawians would agree with that. They'd go, yeah, that's a great idea. But what they didn't realize until a while down the track is often they didn't agree with what Tim and Mel were saying. But out of respect, out of their culture, because they were the ones bringing the money, they would just simply agree. So if we went over there and we said, we got $50,000 or we're for the government, $50 billion, and just say, what can you do with it? And they would look to us and say, what do you want to do with it? And we just go, we're going to change and radicalize the agriculture system and bring water power. And they would say, yeah, that's a great idea because we've got the money. We have the power. But what they've done, Tim and Mel, is over time, now the money is not coming from Tim and Mel. The money is not coming from Baptist Mission Australia. The money is being raised up by them. And as they sit with the community leaders, what they've found over the last few years, and Tim and Mel might have a great idea to use the money that is being raised out of the cafe and the nursery school and what will be the bakery. Now the local Malawians, they're pushing back on Mel and Tim's ideas. They're saying, nah, that's a good idea, but we want to do this. The fact that they've now got their own money raising up, they're actually the ones that are better tasked and better gifted to use the money and to serve. And so that is what Tim and Mel have been doing over the years. And we've seen, as Carolyn pointed out, there's multiplication happening now. Because the locals are more gifted, they're more called to actually serve in that areas, to actually lead and change communities. But Tim and Mel had to humble themselves first before God. They had to sit down and go, we have great ideas, but God, what do you see in this space? What do you see? Our God is a God of wisdom and counsel, and sometimes we have to put aside our own great plans and humble ourselves before God and allow Him to show us our plans. We do that so often in our community. I find myself doing it. The team found themselves doing it constantly, just going, that's a great idea, we could do this, if we could do that. But you've got to sit back and humble yourselves before God and go, what do you want, God? Because it's God the one that will bring blessing. It's God the one that's building His church. It's God who's the one that will bring multiplication. He is wonderful in counsel and excellent in wisdom. So today I want to encourage you, just like Tim and Mel have done and the other missionaries in that community, is to humble yourself before God. You don't have to go to Malawi to actually learn some of these lessons. It's helpful, but you don't have to. The Word of God is here now. And so I encourage you today is to humble yourself before God. I invite the worship team back up as we kind of share. And that might look a few different ways. Often if I have an idea, I'll write it down and be praying and listening through God and not share that idea with someone until I know that God is in that idea. And so maybe you need to do that. Maybe you've got a great idea that God is clearly leading you to, but you haven't shared it with someone else. What we saw over there in Malawi is that good ideas actually come in the midst of community. When people get together and people gather and ideas flow out of that, when everybody is able to have their say. So I encourage you to do that. Some of you today might need a moment of confession. Maybe you've been operating for so many years out of your own strength and your own power and your own wisdom. You've been counseling yourself and you've been convincing God that your plan is the better plan. And so some of you today may actually need a moment where you go, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I've been operating out of my own plan, my own ideas, disguising them as your ideas. But today I want to make a change. Today I confess to you. And I encourage you, if you're confessing to God that, can I encourage you to confess it with other people as well? You know, get connected with in your life group, in the group of friends that you encourage you and work through. And take a moment to humble yourself before God and ask God, what do you want? You're a God who is mighty in power, excellent counselor, and strong in wisdom. Thank you.